Hi all, this is Dima and GT Boxing Channel. In this issue we continue our column, The Burying of a Career. Today we will talk about a famous American welterweight, the great Roy Jones's kryptonite, Antonio Tarver. We will talk in detail about the fight that put an end to Antonio's top status. Before you watch the video, I just ask you to give the video a like, because it is very important for me. Also subscribe to the channel if you haven't done it yet, thank you. Well, sit back and let's go.
Blow it up like a volcano.
In 2005 to 2006, Tarver took part in the filming of the movie Rocky VI as Mason Dixon. He faced the legendary Sylvester Stallone as Rocky Balboa. Soon former outright middleweight champion Bernard Hopkins and currently the strongest welterweight in the world Antonio Tarver will meet each other on June 10th. Yesterday both boxers told the press what the fight would mean for each of them. Antonio Tarver said that for him this fight is another chance to prove to everyone how good a boxer he is and to eliminate the undervaluation of his accomplishments, which he believes still exists among boxing fans and specialists. Bernard will step into the rankings after two controversial losses, but we're not going to underestimate him because of that. We're ready for a serious challenge. This is going to be one of the best fights of the year, Tarver added. First of all, it's a historic fight for me, going from middleweight to welterweight, and secondly, Antonio Tarver has a good reputation, but he's not a Hall of Fame boxer like me. When the time comes to compare us out of the ring, and compare our stats and achievements, I'll win by clean knockout, said Hopkins. The former champion had previously stated that this fight would be his last regardless of the outcome, and therefore he attached great importance to it. Titles and past achievements build reputation, but they can't do anything about the challenge you're facing. This fight is very important to me, Hopkins stated. On March 22, 2006, in Manhattan, there was a press conference for the fight to be held on June 10 in Atlantic City between former world middleweight champion Bernard Hopkins and the strongest welterweight of the world, Antonio Tarver. Antonio Tarver, who had no doubt he would win, offered Hopkins a $250,000 wager that he could knock him out within 5 rounds. Hopkins was a great fighter, but his time has passed, Tarver stated. It's my time, and I take it as a personal insult that Hopkins is moving up to flyweight and challenging me to a fight. I will punish him in the ring for that. Hopkins responded that he was going to win this fight and cement his place in boxing history. Win, lose, or draw, this will be my last fight, Hopkins summed it up. Antonio credits a special role on his team to coach Buddy McGirt and regime and fitness specialist Dudley Pierce, who has worked with a lot of high-profile boxers, not to mention a lot of National Basketball Association players. Antonio is particularly focused because he sees himself specifically as a killer of legends, and he knows he has to back up his words, McGirt reported. Dudley Pierce, talking about Tarver's training regimen, highlighted the risk of being overtrained right before the fight. Sometimes I have to call off the training simply because Antonio is doing too much. Antonio is a very hard worker, he works very hard. His weight is close to perfect, he's already lighter than 86 kilograms. Antonio Tarver's weight was over 90 kilograms when he was busy filming another episode of Rocky, but the need to shed extra pounds never bothered Tarver's team. Believe it or not, the pounds came off remarkably quickly because they only came off because he ate a lot while he was living in Hollywood, laughs Buddy McGirt. It's not like he was putting on muscle. I knew that wouldn't be a problem, because as soon as he got back from LA, he went straight to the gym. Pierce, who also prepares Tarver's meals, said his men eats 3 to 5 meals a day. Former ultimate middleweight champion Bernard Hopkins has issued a press release back to the Antonio Tarver camp and the fans waiting for their June 10 fight in Atlantic City. Hopkins promised that he would be big in this fight, putting several meanings into that word, as is his custom. An indirect indication of his size is evidenced by a poster of the former champion at the Sheraton Hotel in New Orleans, where Hopkins is currently training. Recall that he brought in several specialists directly for this fight to make weight. A representative of the hotel's management expressed a special thanks to Hopkins, after Hurricane Katrina, it's especially nice that a man like Bernard Hopkins chose this place to train. People who live here or stay here know he's a very strong supporter. I don't think I've ever seen myself this big, Hopkins himself stated. And believe me, on June 10th, Antonio Tarver will be surprised that I'm that big, too. Overall, most boxing experts' predictions were for Tarver to win. He's a natural welterweight, he's bigger in size, he's great from distance, good timing and speed. A serious weight loss played against him, as he had to put on over 100 pounds to make the movie Rocky. In favor of Hopkins said a lot of experience, flexibility in tactical drawing, good stamina and Zalkalkalkalka. This old wolf was capable of dragging Tarver into deep waters, and so although B-Hop was doubtful, most people wouldn't have been surprised just by his win. But the bookies, of course, believed in Antonio's victory. At stake were the IBO and ZA ring titles held by Roy's abuser. Time passed, the athletes were getting ready for the fight and now it was time for the weigh-in. Both fighters had no problem staying within the 175-pound weight class that the fight was taking place in. Both of them were 1 pound under the weight limit, 78.925 kilograms. On the pre-fight weigh-in, Hopkins weighed 182 pounds, 82.55 kilograms, but Tarver weighed 187 pounds, 84.8 kilograms. And now, on June 11, 2006, the fight begins. Bernard Hopkins from the very beginning was able to direct the fight to his advantage, making his opponent move and miss a lot. From the second round on he began to actively work Tarver's body, managing to dodge his counterattacks most of the time. Hopkins was also successful in shutting down Tarver's attacks, getting in close combat and delivering punches to the body and head.
19 punches thrown per round for the first 8 rounds. Now Tarver stops him in his tracks with a left hand and hits him with another one. Good right hand by
speech that he got, and his left hand is becoming more of a factor now.
Well, Tarver better get going. Right hand based attack so far. Big left hand from Tarver.
Is a 3-1 favorite in this fight and not looking it. No, and he doesn't.
In the 5th round, Tarver missed a powerful right kick that sent him stumbling, and while trying to keep his balance, he touched his glove to the floor, for which he was counted out for knockdown. Hopkins tried to take it to the knockout, but Tarver was able to hold on and Hopkins was still able to intercept Tarver's attacks, answering them with jabs and right hands. Towards the end of the fight, Tarver's strikes clearly lost their power, and Hopkins simply stopped paying attention to them. Hopkins also looked much stronger than Tarver on pure power punches, constantly forcing Tarver to pull back when they were in a clinch. By the 10th round, both of Tarver's eyes were swollen and starting to close, and although he managed to win some of the final rounds, Hopkins looked much better in them. Bernard Hopkins won by unanimous decision, 118 to 109 on all judges' scorecards. According to CompuBox's punching stats, Hopkins threw a total of 417 punches during the fight, 133 of which, about 32%, hit the target. Tarver was slightly more active, throwing 437 punches, but only 78 of them, about 18%, were accurate. Hopkins also led in power punches, 126 of 343, 37%, against 48 of 211, 23%. Here's how Tarver commented on his painful fiasco. "I'm only human," he stated, "and this turned out to be one of those times when I left my whole self behind in training camp. I used to think it was something unreal, just an old expression used by coaches to explain it, but now I realize how real it is. It was an important fight," the former champion continued. "And I didn't perform properly, I didn't use my talent and my abilities. I had 10.5 weeks of training, I got too much shape too fast, and we couldn't keep it up when the fight came." Tarver also said that there was really no need for such a long period of preparation, as 3 weeks before the fight he was already fitting in at flyweight. In the end, the training was too grueling, and by the time of the fight, the boxer came up sluggish and overtrained. "I felt bad, and I couldn't catch that moment where my instincts and reflexes started to control me," is how he described his condition. "I spent the whole fight trying to think, and when you think, you're always one step behind. My sense of distance didn't work, I couldn't counterattack, and my body refused to listen to me." After such a setback, Magic Man managed to get back on top and even won the IBF and IBO titles, but he didn't last long at the top, losing twice to Chad Dawson. Antonio delighted in a number of other good performances against Green, KO'd and Banks, and in his last bout on August 14, 2015, he rolled up a draw with Steve Cunningham. Anthony Tarver is without a doubt a bright, tough fighter, charismatic and sharp in the minds of boxing fans. He has taken his place among other legends of this noble sport. You cannot call him outstanding. He did not get that huge dose of love from his ex-rival Roy Jones, and most probably many of Antonio's fans will associate him with crushing dominating former pound-for-pound leader, but the victories Tarver achieved during his life both in and out of the ring are worthy of respect. And how would you characterize this fighter's career, and who would you like to make the next edition about? Be sure to post in the comments. Thank you for finishing the video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click on the bell to always be the first to see new videos. Bye.